Should all of them be red?
No, it looks good.
Okay.
I was going to say, those guys usually have a much better view of it than I do. I can just think of it about that.
Would you believe that the first tennis racket was used by the French in the late 11th century, and that it was made out of human flesh? No, this isn't some sort of medieval horror. It was actually the first form of tennis. It was a game played where one would use their own hand to hit a ball against a wall. Today, tennis is a well-known sport and can have many benefits, such as promoting a healthful lifestyle, promoting good exercise habits, and providing a perfect way to have fun with friends. Listening to this speech will not only give you a little bit of information about the tennis rackets and enlighten you about the sport itself, it can also improve your tennis game by making you more aware of the racket and making you feel more comfortable with it. When I was in high school, I played tennis for 5 years, and I experienced many different rackets I played with. And I can say that the more rackets I played with, the better my skills got. Tennis is a great way to stay in shape as well, and just a little bit of knowledge about the rackets can make the game even more fun. Now, tennis rackets have changed pretty drastically since the 11th century, but the first one was actually made out of wood. The first racket I'm going to talk to you about is the wooden racket. According to the Tennis History Museum, the first wooden racket was produced and sold in a lawn tennis set in about 1870. Now, this racket weighed about a pound and was 2 feet tall. This racket quickly became the most popular racket on the market because it was the first of its kind out of all the previous rackets to it. According to Stephen Tigner, in a 2010 tennis magazine, he said, "The wood frame is the sporting world's vinyl record." The wood racket is also the hardest to play with because it has the smallest head size and weighs the most. Playing with a wooden racket in tennis would be similar to playing baseball with a skinny stick or playing volleyball with a basketball instead of a volleyball. The second racket I'm going to talk about is the aluminum racket. The aluminum racket became very popular after the wood racket, even though it came 100 years after the wooden racket. According to Alan John, in a 2009 Tennis Magazine article, he considered the Prince Classic Aluminum Racket one of the best 10 rackets of all time. Now, this racket was much easier than the wooden racket because it was much lighter and also had a larger head size, which made hitting the ball much easier. Now, even though the wood racket and the aluminum racket both had really good form and were much better than previous rackets, the newest graphite fiber racket brought tennis to a science and took playing to a whole new level. The third racket I'm going to talk about is the graphite fiber racket. And this racket is the easiest to play with, as I've played with many over my tennis career, when compared to the other two sorts of rackets mentioned. In The Physics and Technology in Tennis by Howard Brody, Rod Cross, and Lindsay Crawford, they state that a key issue to making a good tennis racket is the stiffness of the racket. Also in an article by J.K. Venitkan and A.J. Sobek, they say vibration is a key asset in a good tennis racket. And this is what makes graphite fiber rackets so much better than the other rackets, because it has a good balance between stiffness and vibration. Tennis rackets have changed very much over the centuries, and there are always new generations growing up with who need new rackets for their advancing tennis skills. Now, even though the wood, the aluminum, and the graphite fiber racket are very different, they all have one thing in common, and that is no matter what you're playing with on the court, you're going to have a fun time.
Can we press record again?